One of the biggest gripes during the college football playoff discussion has been that group of 5 teams never have a shot to truly be in the mix. They basically have to settle for one-off games like the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which will feature the undefeated UCF Knights against the SEC runner-up Auburn Tigers in Atlanta, Georgia at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on January 1st, 2018. These two high-octane offenses should enjoy the fast track, but we only have a total of 66.5 points, which may seem low to a lot of people. The spread of Auburn at -9.5 may also catch some by surprise. UCF rolled to a 12-0 record, but the Knights were not the same dominant team late in the season that they were early on. UCF needed double overtime to survive Memphis in the AAC title game, got outgained in a 49-42 win over South Florida, and really had issues on the road at SMU. The quest for perfection will continue to feature Scott Frost, who has already been hired by Nebraska, but has been given the chance by AD Bill Moose to finish out the season with the Knights. When Scott Frost was at Oregon, a small quarterback named Mackenzie Milton attended a quarterback camp. It was deemed that Milton was too small to offer, but when Scott Frost took the job at UCF, he knew exactly what he wanted, and Milton has not disappointed. The sophomore sensation posted a 35-9 touchdown-interception ratio and completed 69.2% of his passes en route to the Peach Bowl. Milton also ran 93 times for 497 yards with 7 rushing scores. New head coach Josh Heupel has a lot to work with in Milton, and we'll have to see how his skill set translates. Adrian Killins Jr. was the leading rusher with 762 yards on 112 carries for a 6.8 yards per carry average and 10 scores. But UCF had a committee approach for most part and rushed for 5.2 yards per play. Traquan Smith opened a ton of eyes in his junior season with 1,082 yards on just 54 receptions. 13 of those grabs went for 6 points. UCF had 15 yards per reception this season and was among the country's best with 7.6 yards per play. This is a very hard offense to stop with the UCF's fast tempo. Defensive coordinator Eric Chinnander was in a tough spot coming into the season. UCF's defense, which allowed 37.7 points and 464 yards per game in 2015, took major strides in his first season at the helm. The Knights allowed just 24.6 points and 370 yards per game. The team shaved 1.7 yards per play off its performance from 2015 to 2016. The problem is that the Knights only returned 4 starters this season and had to break in a brand new starting secondary. UCF allowed 5.8 yards per play but held opponents to just 25.2 points per game. Doubling up the opposition in turnover margin was a big help. It is worth pointing out that UCF has allowed 7.2 yards per play and over 600 yards in its last 3 games against Temple, South Florida, and Memphis. And if there's one thing that we do know about Auburn, it's that the Tigers can move the football. The Auburn Tigers are 10-3 and are in something of a no-win scenario. The Tigers are supposed to win this game and overcome the disappointment of missing out on the college football playoff with the SEC championship game lost to Georgia. The team Auburn beat the week prior to Georgia, however, was the Alabama Crimson Tide, who are in the playoff. So how invested will the Tigers be to play an upstart group of 5 team? Auburn averaged 6.3 yards per play this season. Jarrett Stidham struggled against Georgia, but played well on a year with a 17-4 touchdown interception ratio and a 66.7% completion rate. Kerryon Johnson is such an important component of this offense, and he was nowhere near 100% against Georgia. By January 1st, he should be ready to go. Johnson rushed 263 times for 1,320 yards with 17 touchdowns. He only had 13 carries for 44 yards in the SEC championship game. Auburn averaged 5 yards per carry on the season, but it was Johnson that had 263 of the team's 598 attempts. The Tigers had nearly 13 yards per catch, led by Ryan Davis, who had 76 grabs for 768 yards. Darius Slayton was the home run threat with nearly 24 yards per catch. While the offense is what we would have expected, it was the defense that stood out once again. A lot of people were probably wondering if last season was the outlier when the Tigers held the opposition to just 5.1 yards per play. Defensive coordinator Kevin Steele was clearly the right hire for this team. The Tigers only allowed 4.6 yards per play this season. Opponents collectively averaged 6 yards per play, and the Tigers held opposing quarterbacks to a 55% completion rate. Some stability with the defensive coaching staff can go a long way. Prior to Steele's hiring, the Tigers had 4 DCs in 5 years. The trendy pick on this game will probably be UCF. The Knights are in search of perfection, and there are a lot of ways to evaluate Auburn's motivation. The Tigers are far and away the best defense that the Knights will have faced this season, and therein lies the difference. Nebraska has been very understanding with the Frost hire, and that shouldn't be much of a distraction. But Frost is spending some time looking at his freshman class for Nebraska and the class of 2018. You cannot discount that in your handicapping. Giving a terrific DC like Kevin Steele nearly a month to plan for this game is a big advantage for the Tigers, and that should play out here. So our pick and prediction will be for Auburn at -9.5. For our pick and prediction on this game and every other game this week, and a wealth of free stats and information, check out bangthebook.com.